To be playing Sega Genesis with bros. Now I'm gaming with some folks on the other side the globe. Used to go through a label if you trying to blow. Now people got more.
Welcome to 3countcommentaries. We'll be talking about Impact Wrestling Against All Odds from July the 1st, 2022. A short review of this show would be that it is a mundane wrestling show where absolutely no risks were taken, but there was still, it was a solid enough in-ring program. It just feels like we're spinning our wheels, and that's kind of how Impact has felt for like a year or so, because it's just very little actually happening. So, I'm going to talk about the show anyway. I actually did look at the pre-show this time because I wanted to see Taurus versus Laredo Kid, and I enjoyed the match, Taurus versus Laredo Kid. I think both of these guys should be doing more. It's just unfortunate that apparently Impact has zero interest in doing anything with either one of these guys, but I like both of them. It's on YouTube if you wanted to watch it. What's also on YouTube that you should not watch is Rich Swann versus Brian Myers and some type of no disqualification match. I'm not a fan of either one of these guys. Brian Myers wins the Digital Media Championship. Oh, what a joke. What a joke. Rich Swann, for starters, just won the belt like 2 weeks ago. Right before Slammiversary, he won the belt. Now he's already lost it, which actually shows you how important the belt is, because they gave it to Brian Myers, for Christ's sake. The title is useless. It's absolutely useless. Later in the show, Rich Swann was upset about losing, saying nobody wants to be a short-lived champion, and he had plans of rebooting his Facebook and bringing back his Twitter account and even starting up a MySpace, but he's already lost the belt. So I'm like, oh God. And then they immediately shoved him in a feud with the Indian guys who were kind of, completely nondescript. All I know is Shira, because he's been there forever. I don't even know the name of the other guy. I watch this show every week. I don't know the name of that other guy. It just doesn't come to me, so I don't care about him. And look, I was hugely against Rich Swann being world champion. I was really, really against it. I'm not so sure if has a guy ever fallen off as far as Rich Swann had fallen off. He went from being world champion to now being this guy. I don't know what kind of, he's not even on the show most of the time. Maybe it's a Kofi Kingston like situation where he's go from world champion, like Kofi Kingston went from world champion back to tag team champion. Rich Swann hadn't even done that. He didn't even win the tag team title because Willie Mack left. Willie Mack is gone from Impact as far as I know. So he didn't even get to win a tag team title. He's just, back even below the mid card. He's an undercard guy. It is absolutely embarrassing. But, I mean, it is what it is, sir. All right, the first match on the main show, Bullet Club, Ace Austin and Chris Bay are defeated by the Motor City Machine Guns. And I have to ask the question, since we're in a world of, wrestling executives having sex with their employees, does Chris Sabin have some kind of information on these people? Like, he always fucking wins. Like, Chris Sabin always wins. I'm like, what kind of special, he must know where the bones are buried in Impact or something like that. Like, they have no business winning this match. The Motor City Machine Guns beat them for what exactly? Alex Shelley is barely even there half the time. So, like, we had these guys, again, I shouldn't have to continuously complain about the booking of Ace Austin and Chris Bay, two young guys who you could have in the mix as even mid-card guys or top guys who are consistently jobbed out. And it's like, what the fuck? It's like they out there to do flippity-doo-dah kicks in the face, and then they lose to whoever they're wrestling. Their title runs are short, if they even have any. They really don't get too much promo time. They don't get too much time to do skits or vignettes or anything. What the fuck is the point of these guys? It seems like they're in a holding cell. You're not quite in jail, but you can't leave. So like, what the fuck is going on with these dudes? Now they just shoved Ace Austin and Bullet Club. Now he's another Bullet Club weirdo. And they're both in the ring doing the silly back scratch El Phantasmo spot. So now it's a Bullet Club thing. Everybody in Bullet Club is going to do cartwheels and back scratch. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe Motor City Machine Guns won this match. It wasn't a bad match. Decent enough opener. No storyline going into it, really. I'm just like, why is Chris Sabin always winning? I don't know. I just have no idea. All right, so we continue in the tag team ranks as the Good Brothers, Heath, and America's Most Wanted have a promo segment because they're gonna be in a match tonight. So Carl Anderson and the Big LG talk about they got an iconic dream team. This is the first time since 2009, I think they said that America's Most Wanted is going to team up. It's been 16 years. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy that they haven't been teamed up in that long. So Heath is still mad at Honor No More for beating up on Rhino. He says he's going to kick their asses. And James Storm and Chris Harris are out there saying it's one more time for AMW. They came into this company together. They're going to leave together. And Chris Harris says that there's still a little bit more left in him. A little bit more in the basement, he says. And he's going to pull it out tonight. Honor No More is backstage. They're firing each other up and saying that these guys are trying to stop their message, stop trying to spread their message, and they're going to do the same to this team of ne'er-do-wells that they did to all the other teams that tried to stop them, and that all of these guys, another Impact team, they're partners by circumstance, while the Honor No More is bound by a message and bound by fate and all this kind of stuff. So they've been doing this storyline with PCO where he got blamed for the loss at Slammiversary. So Vincent is the one who's kind of his handler, talking to him, trying to get him to get his head back in the game. And in this situation, PCO is reluctant to rejoin the group because he got kicked. He didn't get kicked out, but he did get blamed. So Vincent kind of implores PCO to rejoin the faction, to rejoin the group, and he eventually does. This leads to the big match, big 10-man tag, Honor No More versus America's Most Wanted, the Good Brothers and Heath. Edwards continually messed with PCO throughout the match, giving him orders, pushing him around, tagging himself in when PCO was in, basically not trusting him. They did a big hot tag for Chris Harris later, and basically they just fed Chris Harris. Everybody ran up to him like a putty on Power Rangers and got punched because his movements are so limited that he could barely do anything. So you had to basically run up to him. He just punch you in the head, and that's it. He did do one thing, which was the death sentence, the finish for America's Most Wanted. And they did a spine buster carousel in this match too. The referee was just standing around. The referee just watching as every single motherfucker in the match is in the match at the same time, just watching. Spine buster, spine buster, spine buster, spine buster. I'm just like, oh my word. Will you please? Will you please? Do something. PCO was told by Kenny King to do a PCO assault from the top rope. He instead went for starters, he hesitated. Then he went up to the top rope and then jumped off the top rope onto a pile of people on the other side outside the ring. The commentators started yelling that PCO is once again malfunctioning. He's malfunctioning because he's a Frankenstein monster or a machine or some type. Anyway, this led to Kenny King getting hit with the death sentence and pinned. So not only did we get our obligatory, really, really overdone Honor No More 10-man tag, which I'm absolutely tired of at this point. I'm tired of the Honor No More 10-man tag. I don't need to see any more of these. But not only that, but they lose again. Like, not only am I tired of watching them, I'm tired of watching these fucking guys lose. They've lost like every fucking 10-man tag they've ever had at this point. I think they may have won one. But they just continually fucking lose. Now, I get it. It's a storyline. They're trying to tell the storyline that PCO botched it, and he's going to get blamed for this loss, too. But for fuck's sake, Chris Harris is barely mobile, and they managed to win this match. This match would have been 4-on-5. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Now, after this match, He said he's not done with Honor No More because apparently beating them is never enough. You're never going to actually get rid of them by beating them because they beat him 100 fucking times. He says that they put Rhino on the shelf. They put him on the shelf. He's not done with them. He's going to hunt them down one at a time and beat up Honor No More. He made a promise that that's what he's going to do. And I was like, well, that ought to be interesting. That ought to be thrilling. It ought to be more interesting than watching them lose another 10-man tag to another makeshift fucking team. At least it was cool that America's Most Wanted was there, and at least they won. So that was cool. Even though it wouldn't have been that big of a deal if they would have lost, because Chris Harris, again, is a liability. He hadn't really been in the ring much. But it was cool seeing America's Most Wanted again. You know, that was nice. And the energy between them and the Good Brothers was pretty cool, too. Heath was just kind of there as an extra guy. So that was fun, at least. That was fine. Even though I'm not really sure. I don't know what's going on with the Bullet Club. Because I'm like, how is the Good Brothers, you know, they are just like okay with Ace Austin and Chris Bay being Bullet Club and losing. But then again, there could have been some shit that happened that I don't remember, you know, about this whole Bullet Club thing. But no, they're in Bullet Club because they were hanging out with Jay White. But they're baby faces in Impact. But Ace Austin and Chris Bay were heels on this same show. Look, it is what it is, man. I can't. I'm not even gonna pretend to explain it. I don't know. But at least they're trying to do something in terms of character and motivations with Honor No More. They need to separate them. They need to be broken up. They need to go their own way and be just 5 individuals, or with the OGK as a tag team or something like that on this show. This Honor No More thing is not working out. It was fine when it started, but now it's gone on for too long. They have no momentum. It's just trash. And plus, Ring of Honor is back in operation under Tony Khan. So it just looks like they're the guys from the Wasteland now. You know, they're guys that Tony Khan didn't want, pretty much. But it's hard to tell because Impact doesn't have really too many permanent mainstays. So they don't really do much in the way of storyline. So there it is. All right, the second match on the show, actually, was Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo defeating Mickie James and Mia Yim. They did mashup entrances for both of them. The Mickie James and Mia Yim mashup entrance is actually pretty fun, with Mia Yim in a cowboy hat. The mix of the music was pretty cool, too. I can't say the same thing for Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo. It was not great. This match comes out of Mickie James being the special enforcer for the Queen of the Mountain match, in which she interfered and cost Chelsea Green the match. And Deonna Purrazzo and Mia Yim have been having a tiff over the last couple of weeks. The win comes from Chelsea Green pinning Mickie James. So Deonna Purrazzo, of course, motions for a tag team title match afterwards, because it's very weird for Deonna Purrazzo to not have a belt. So she immediately needs to have a belt because her character kind of is an empty shell without a title. So Chelsea Green is winning matches. Okay. I still don't think they've had the big blow off match between Chelsea Green and Mickie James yet. They're really slowly building that thing. So I'm okay with it. Especially if Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green are going to be a regular tag team. I'm okay with them winning. It's okay. All right, third match on the show. Trey Miguel versus Speedball Mike Bailey for the X Division title. It was basically traditional X Division fare, which is essentially a cruiserweight match. These two guys kicking each other in the legs for most of the match, and both guys working the leg, which was interesting. You rarely see both guys working the same body part. Speedball Mike Bailey is one of the most blandest characters I've ever seen. There's just no intensity or character to this fucking guy. He is a decent wrestler, but he's the blandest dude in the world. You know, he's just, ugh. Trey seems like he's just been stuck in this spot, much like Chris Bay and Ace Austin. He's kind of been typecast as the mid-card cruiserweight guy who all he does is flips and dives and stuff like that. And that's all he's good for, and that's all they care about. So that's all they let him do. You know, as far as pushing him up the card, no. They have ample opportunity to push all three of these guys up the card. They're regulars. They've been regulars for 3 or 4 years now. Like, it's not like they're fleeting, coming and going kind of guys. They've been there. Why can't they move up? Like, I don't know. But Trey Miguel used a inside out hurricanrana where he ran across the ring, jumped over the top rope, and hurricanrana speedball Mike Bailey off the ring apron onto the floor. I've seen people do that move before. It still remains very wild to see. Trey Miguel likes to, like, the Meteora is his finish. He likes to do it from like a pop-up position where like he would do a flat jack and he would do a Meteora, which is pretty cool. He did that too. Speedball Mike Bailey's finishing move is the double knees, where it's kind of like a backflip into the double knees. But this match was solid. It was a solid enough cruiserweight affair, which, what people kept saying, the X Division shouldn't just be cruiserweight title, but that is essentially what it is at this point. It's been a while since they've given anybody. I think Josh Alexander might be the last wrestler to not really be a cruiserweight wrestler who was the X Division champion. And that was actually not that long ago, now that I think about it. But Mike Bailey is bland. He's boring as shit. He cut a promo a little bit later saying that Trey Miguel was the first person to beat him in Impact. So it was nice to get that win back. And that he's not going to wait for challengers. He's going to be open and having open challenges, apparently. And they're going to start this Thursday. And I was just kind of like, please, just come on. I don't know. Inject this guy with something. I don't know. Charisma, personality, cover him in sprinkles. I don't know what the fuck you got to do to make this guy interesting. But I don't give a fuck about his wrestling skills. Like, that's the thing, man. Like, these people think that all you must care about is his in-ring talent. It's like, fuck, he's boring to watch. He has nothing to say. He does Karate Kid stuff. He's like a big-ass Ralph Macchio. Like, this, get the fuck out of here. Was his name Ralph Macchio in that movie? Please don't tell me I don't remember the name of the Karate Kid. Because I don't think I do. I don't think I do. Anyway, moving on. Knockouts Tag Team Championships, Taya, Valkyrie, and Rosemary defeated Tenille Dashwood and Giselle Shaw. So Taya Valkyrie, since she was released from NXT, they just been giving her belts all over the place. She's now the MLW Women's Champion. She's the Knockouts Tag Team Champion. She's the AAA Women's Champion. She's just won all the belts. She's got them all, already. Giselle Shaw made news for coming out as a transgender, as if anybody doesn't have eyeballs and can see it for themselves. I mean, that's like going outside during a thunderstorm and coming back and saying, you know what, I think it's raining outside. It's like, come on, what the fuck? Everybody who ever seen Giselle Shaw knew Giselle Shaw was not a female. Everybody knew that. But they did it the whole thing so Impact could get a little bit of a marketing boost from it and come out and say that, oh yes, we support Giselle Shaw completely as a transgendered wrestler on our roster that will continue wrestling in the women's division. Well, it is what it is. Giselle Shaw is actually just a fill-in for Madison Rayne. Madison Rayne broke her nose in the last match, so Giselle Shaw is just filling in. During an episode of Impact on Thursday, Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary was jumped by Giselle Shaw, Dashwood, and Madison Rayne. She then went backstage, dug through her change purse, apparently, found a ring, and then summoned James Mitchell from the Shadow Realm, or whatever the fuck they're calling it, the Dark Realm, whatever they're calling it in Impact. I've been watching this shit for over 10 years, and I still don't remember. I don't commit this garbage to memory. But for the last 4 or 5 years, they've had like a separate universe in Impact where, of course, Rosemary has superpowers. She can manage to make a man appear from out of thin air, but she still manages to lose matches. What? Anyway, she was looking for Havoc because Havoc has disappeared. And James Mitchell says that he's not sure Havoc wants to reappear just yet. So it doesn't matter anyway. Match was Giselle Shaw did like a twisting thing from the top rope and completely missed. Just completely missed it. The finish came from Taya Valkyrie using a small package. It was a counter to a big move. So it was fine as far as this finish is concerned. Madison Rayne, Giselle Shaw, and Tennille Dashwood jumped them after the match and beat them up. While they was on the ramp celebrating after beating up Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie, Masha Slamovich came out there with a manila folder. And she does this because she's just, I guess the pale rider. I guess she just shows up and does stuff. She doesn't cut promos, but they're now starting to add character to Masha Slamovich. And she now has started making challenges. They're just kind of weird challenges. She just challenges random women on the roster. Now she's giving a picture to Tennille Dashwood. And the picture is of Tennille Dashwood covered in red paint, or I think it's supposed to be blood, to signify that she's next in terms of Masha Slamovich's opponents. Giselle Shaw and Madison Rayne backed away from her as if she had cooties and tried to get away. That was fine. Tennille Dashwood doesn't do a lot on this show anyway, so her being there is perfectly fine with me. All right, so Raven appears because Raven actually had a promo on the Thursday show. Raven was talking about the Clockwork Orange House of Fun. Now, he says that it was his version of what childhood should be like, a playground. It was designed to be barbaric and inhumane, and said that he hopes someone gets hurt. That would make him happy. Then he's on commentary for the Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Sami Callihan versus Moose. There hasn't been a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match since 2009. So this has been a while. Raven has been in 7 of the last 10 of these matches. And I remember these matches having cages, but this one was not caged. There was no cage on this match. I remember specifically the WWE version, which was called the Asylum match. It was awful. It was Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho. It was awful. It was a cage match with weapons. That's all it was. And that's all really the Clockwork Orange House of Fun concept was. If I remember it correctly, it was just a weapons match inside of a steel cage. I could be wrong about that. I could be thinking about a different kind of match. But I know WWE ripped this idea off with the Asylum. But it was fine. This was another one of those bloody, crazy matches where guys used barbed wire and trash cans and bottles and staplers and all kind of broken glass. They pile driving each other on Legos. It was kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of over the bloody brawls. Like, I think this feud it justifies it to a degree because Moose broke his leg. So I see why we would go to a blood feud over that. But it's feel like being in the same week as Blood and Guts, it just kind of made it seem like, okay, we're overkilling the blading and stabbing each other in the head with glass and all that kind of stuff. And the barbed wire, we're just kind of overdoing it in wrestling now. But at least it fits this storyline. Did it fit the AEW storyline? And you know what? Maybe it did. Maybe it did. But I'm just kind of desensitized to this kind of stuff, So to finish, a man dressed like a cameraman jumped in the ring and hit Sami Callihan in the head with a barbed wire baseball bat. The man ended up being Steve Maclin, who is apparently the only person on the roster that's allowed to elevate himself, because he went from being virtually non-existent on this show to now being, a main driver of the show. And he attacked Sami Callihan. Moose hit the spear, and Moose wins the match. So if I remember correctly, Moose lost the Full Metal Mayhem match, but he won this. I don't remember the match at Slammiversary. I'm so sorry. I kind of, I think I threw it in the black vortex of my memory, and I don't remember it. But they did a good job of pairing Maclin with Callihan now, so now his feud with Moose can kind of finally end, or we can at least branch off with Sami Callihan doing something else with somebody else. And since Maclin he comes across like a loose cannon, where that's kind of like his gimmick, where he just does whatever he wants. So it just feels like he felt like fucking with Sami Callihan, so he did. So that ought to be interesting. I don't remember them having crossing paths too often or too many times, especially since Simon Callahan returned. He's kind of been singularly focused on Moose. It might be something else. It might be something I'm missing there. If you're a regular watcher of Impact and you like commit this stuff to memory, maybe you could fill us in the comment section. All right. So the women's championship match was the co-main event. It was Tasha Steelz versus Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace had already defeated Savannah Evans, who was outside the ring wearing boots and jeans. I'm just kind of like, oof. She needs to be glammed up a little bit. I think that's part of her gimmick, is that she's supposed to be like the savage. But, wearing Timberland boots in the summer? What part of New York is she from? Anyway, Jordynne Grace wins the match with the Grace driver. It was kind of ugly. There was two good spots in this match. Well, one good spot. The stalling superplex by Jordynne Grace was actually very impressive. I've been very impressed with Jordynne Grace since she changed her body type. They're not letting her do a lot in terms of character and cutting promos and stuff like that, which is the stuff that draws in wrestling. I don't understand. A lot of people don't understand this. Maybe they need to shake up the creative team in Impact, because the creative team just seems a bunch of mundane people who don't understand character development and stuff like that. I think this is, maybe it's because Impact is a Canadian wrestling product, and people don't know that. It's run by Canadians, and I think Anthem is even set in Canada. It just comes across as very milquetoast, where you have the ability to do stuff that is kind of fun, but instead you just do stuff that is exactly the way you're supposed to do it, and it comes across as being very flat. So Tasha Steelz was champion for a short amount of time, and she lost. Now the finish to this match was Tasha Steelz trying to use like an RKO or a stunner or something like that, and Jordynne Grace countered it into her finish. But it's not that she couldn't hold Tasha Steelz up, it's that Tasha Steelz landed very awkwardly on her head. So it was a very ugly finish. I'm not saying that Tasha Steelz was hurt. I'm saying it didn't look good. It certainly did not look crisp. Let's put it like that. Didn't look good. Looked like it sucked. To be just like it sucked to take, honestly. But the match itself was fine, I guess. It's hard. The women's title matches have not been spectacular since Deonna Purrazzo was running the division. So it's been okay. All right, the main event, the Impact World title, the undefeated Joe Doring versus Josh Alexander. And now let me talk to you about Joe Doring. Now, Joe Doring is undefeated, but not because he has any momentum, because he's not been a killing machine. I think they just forgot to put him in matches to lose, because he's just been there for like 2 or 3 years, not really doing anything. I have yet to see a contender come into a match with less momentum than Joe Doring came into this match. I don't think he even won. Did he even win a match to get this match, or he's just handpicked for this match because he was undefeated? He hadn't beat anybody of note. I can't think of the last person that with any name value that Joe Doring has beaten. Again, I run the risk of having memory hold some stuff. But Joe Doring was awful in this match, too, by the way. For starters, he has a decent enough look where he looks like the big gaijin that would be a star in all Japan. And that's what his gimmick is, essentially. He's a big cowboy. He looked like something that stepped out of the 1970s. Like, Bill Watts would have fought him, or something like that. But in modern day, he was very slow. He's a tyrannosaur. He was slow. His movements were very deliberate. He had no sense of urgency at all to his movements. Even his, lariats and stuff like that did not have any that much oomph behind them. It was just not good. It was not a good showing for Joe Doring, So if you thought that and at no point did I feel that he was going to win this match either. This is part of him not having any momentum. This has been part of Josh Alexander's one-man feud against Violent by Design, where he beat Eric Young at Slammiversary. He beat Diener on TV, and now he's beating Joe Doring against all odds. Completely squashed this stable. Not that I was, overly excited about Violent by Design, but at least they were interesting at some point. There was a certain point where Violent by Design was the best part of the show. And Joe Doring didn't have to do much but stand there and snarl. Now he's got to get in the ring and work. And he just kind of didn't exactly bring his working boots with him. And Josh Alexander isn't the kind of guy who, is super charismatic. He's another charisma vacuum. So he needs to be working with charismatic guys, in order to get over, and it didn't quite work this time. It felt like they were it felt like a TV match to me. It didn't feel like a big pay-per-view main event. I know it's not supposed to be a huge pay-per-view. It is just Impact Insiders or whatever the fuck they're calling it. Impact Plus or whatever. But to me, it just felt like a lot was left behind and that Joe Doring isn't very good. He just looks the part. And he throws lariats like Stan Hansen. And he throws wild punches like Stan Hansen. But he doesn't have the charisma of Stan Hansen. And he didn't have the viciousness of Stan Hansen. He has pretty much everything that you would be looking for in a big cowboy bruiser. But just none of the explosiveness and none of the charisma. So this sucked. Overall, the show was below par. The Clockwork Orange House of Fun was fine. The Mike Bailey and Trey Miguel match was fine. The opening match was Bullet Club and Martina Machine Guns was fine. Taurus and Laredo Kid was fine. But if you didn't watch this match, if you didn't watch the show, you didn't miss anything. Because they changed one title that you don't care about. And maybe if you big fan of America's Most Wanted, you would want to see them. But other than that, you could have skipped this show. So let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.